Well, it wasn't pretty, but a win is a win. The Philadelphia Eagles survive in Chicago to get their 13th win of the season, a 25-20 win over Chicago. We'll get into it coming up next right here on the Locked On Eagles postgame show.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Welcome in, everybody, to the Locked On Eagles postgame show. I'm Louis DiBiase. He's Gino Camilleri. The Eagles take it 25-20 over the Chicago Bears in Chicago. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedon. NFL, what a taxing day, Gino. That felt like a 2018, 2019, 2021 kind of win where it's a roller coaster. You're like, yes, 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 no, 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 yes, 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 and it just keeps going back and forth. There's a minute there you're thinking, oh my gosh, they could lose to this inferior Bears team. You play the Dallas Cowboys next week, maybe for the division. Suddenly, all year, you've been the best team in the NFL, and you might be looking at being the 5 seed going back to Tampa Bay. I mean, there was all these overreacting thoughts in my head. But the Eagles finally pull it out. They were the superior team. They rallied in the second half on the backs of their defense, their quarterback, basically their big three of Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and DeVonta Smith to get the win. And with Doug Peterson helping us out, beating Dallas in overtime, the Eagles are not only one win away from the NFC East division title, but one win away from the number 1 seed in the NFC, Gino. So, like, the roller coaster of today is crazy. I mean, but I'm glad everything worked out the best way it could have.
The last 24 hours, rather, Lou. I mean, you look at Minnesota yesterday. Indianapolis had a chance to just bury them. The Eagles could have came into today and handled their business and had a chance to clinch the 1 seed. Minnesota comes back with an all-time victory, an all-time comeback over Indianapolis. The Eagles come into this game, and things were not great to start off. Jalen Hurts, 2 interceptions on the day. The first one was frightening. I didn't know what he was trying to do there. It was a very poorly underthrown ball into triple coverage. That second one, it could have been Quez stopping that route a little early, but still
seemed like,
not what you wanted, to see from your quarterback. And Miles Sanders picked a terrible spot to have his first fumble on the day. They could not strike a balance at all when it came to play calling.
Miles Sanders had 4 carries going into the fourth quarter.
What was Shane Steichen thinking? What was he thinking?
I think what they thought was they could put this Bears team down early. I think they wanted to have the same deep success they had against the Titans and the Giants. And the matchup, I get it. I mean, being a pass-heavy team against this Bears secondary with A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith, I totally get it. But, Gino, it was like they were trying to end the game in the first quarter because it wasn't just passing attempts. They were deep shot after deep shot. I mean, how many third and shorts are they going to the house?
Sure,
and
like
I
10
just think it was
balls today.
it was just way too over aggressive to start. But at the same time, like you said, they overcame those turnovers, and we got to give a shout out first to the defense. I mean, the defense kept you in that game for a while. I mean, Justin Fields had some incredible runs, right? Over 90 rushing yards on the day, but the defensive line and the pursuit of that second and third level kept him in check. Haason Reddick especially, man, 2 sacks today, should have had 4, a forced fumble. You saw the depth of that defensive line come up huge in that game. So the offense rallied in the second half, but it was the defense that really won you this game.
You had 3 guys today that had 2 sacks apiece: Javon Hargrave, Josh Sweat, and Haason Reddick.
Yeah.
Man, oh man, is that the identity of this football team. And this should feel good for Eagles fans. This is what any generation of fan of this team was raised on. You were either raised on a Buddy Ryan defensive line that was just incredible, or you were raised in the Jim Johnson era like you and I were with those defensive lines. And then once again, you have this top tier defensive line where, Lou, we're sitting there in that, I believe, the third quarter where they send that all-out blitz, or it might have been in the fourth quarter. It just was a really messy game time frame-wise. I was lost in what was happening in the Dallas game, and that's what I was focused on more than what was going on here. But when you look at that situation where they send an all-out blitz, you're saying, why? Why did you do that when the defensive line was hitting home? And even when there were these situational downturns from both your offensive coordinator and your defensive coordinator, and you played as poorly as you did, and you lost the turnover differential, and you still found a way to win.
It's huge.
That's what it takes in the NFL sometimes. And this was a look-ahead spot by every stretch of the imagination, and I'm sure Dallas got caught up in that a little bit as well, because they lose to Jacksonville. Chicago kept a game with the Eagles, and there were times, like you said, are we going to lose this game? And the way Justin Fields came out and performed, that was the ultimate recipe to lose that game. Let Justin Fields be Superman. He was that for a little bit, but the Eagles, at the end of the day, when it mattered, they figured it out. Jalen Hurts over 300 yards in the air, 3 touchdowns on the ground. He had over 350 yards by himself combined in the air and on the ground. Career high day for A.J. Brown in the air. DeVonta Smith goes over for 100 yards.
That's the thing,
Gino.
Like, this win was sloppy as hell, but at the same time, I mean, they were moving the ball up and down the field when they wanted to for the majority of the game. Definitely. And the defense was just incredible rushing the passer. So that's the thing. Even in maybe the ugliest win of the year, there were still so many bright spots.
Like, it's not going to get worse than that, folks. Right. There's no way they play worse than that the rest of the
Exactly. And I just think that defensive line, though, man, just really kept you in it. Haason Reddick and this is,
he could have had 12 sacks. Like,
he was winning every single play. And you look at Josh Sweat as 2 sacks. He's at 9.5 now. Javon Hargrave cracks double digits. He's got 10. So now that's the first time the Eagles have 2 players with 10+ sacks since 2011 with Hargrave and Reddick there. Sweat's only a half a sack away. Brandon Graham a sack and a half away. I mean, the defensive line was just absolutely incredible. But it wasn't just them, man. I mean, to chase down Justin Fields, that takes a lot of work. And I mean, shout out to Kazir White and TJ Edwards. And how about Kevon Wallace leading the team in tackles today with 7? His pursuit downfield too was they needed all hands on deck for this one on defense.
I think one of the small takeaways that you can get from this game is maybe you have found a niche role for Kevon Wallace where he can be this guy who protects you out on the edge in some of these big dime or
downhill.
Yeah. Just go downhill. Don't worry about him in coverage.
Because he's athletic, man. He's fast.
Yeah, he was able to. He saved you in some big spots today.
He did.
The safeties came up in some big moments where, he spills from the defensive line. Your linebacker maybe took a bad angle at times. TJ Edwards had another broken tackle today, which is uncharacteristic of him. But like you said, Kevon Wallace comes downhill, lays big hits, and they were all over David Montgomery all day long. They were all over Justin Fields all day long.
The effort was amazing.
Outside of that one, just Michael Vick, 2004 Madden.
It was hard to be mad, man. It was like 2nd and 27.
We just witnessed greatness. Witnessed greatness in that.
And as a guy that loves mobile quarterback play, I was like, all right, he got us there. Definitely. But even Milton, just the effort of the defense today was incredible. Milton Williams saved a touchdown in the first quarter, too. Cole Kmet had nothing but green grass, and Williams chases him down to that screenplay. Again, the offense rallied in the second half, but, I was so impressed by the defense overall. And it's, again, a Chicago Bears team that has little to no talent outside of Justin Fields. But going up against Justin Fields is a tough task. We saw that today. He looks like a guy that's ready to break out in 2023. And, they got not lucky that he got injured at the end there, but that definitely helped a lot too.
We reached the Nathan Peterman portion of an NFL game in the year 2022, which
that was
is
when
just
I could finally
absolutely
take a breath,
insane.
Man. Because Justin Fields,
I laughed for a second. You had to.
Yeah, anytime you feel like the play's over with Fields, I mean, how many times he got out of some impossible situations today? It was over and over again. Both teams showed you the benefit of mobility in quarterback play.
And I think the devil's advocate to that is that as good as the defensive line was, there were still moments where you're not setting the edge and you see what these new realm of quarterbacks are going to do to you. And Justin Fields, look at what this kid can do. He can get out of any situation. He runs faster than anybody on the football field. This is the movement, and I'm glad the Eagles have one of those guys as well.
Yeah.
Because you won on the back of him once again today. He might not have had the numbers when it came to passing touchdowns, but Lou, the first touchdown on the quarterback draw, the QB sneak, he's just money at any given time. Even when he has 2 interceptions, still found a way to win this game when it mattered.
For sure. The Eagles take it 25-20 over the Chicago Bears. They're 13-1 on the season, tying their most wins in a single season in the regular season in franchise history. Now only 1 win away from the number 1 seed in the NFC and the NFC East division title. it was huge. We thought for a minute there they were only going to be
time.
one game back. Dallas is crushing Jacksonville. The Eagles are only like 4 points up on Chicago, but things turn around. The Eagles win and the Cowboys lose. I want to get into the offensive performance, Gino, coming up next. Right here on the postgame show, Locked On Eagles. And today's episode of Locked On Eagles is brought to you by BetterHelp. Unfortunately, life doesn't come with a user manual. So when it's not working for you, it's normal to feel stuck. Therapists are trained to help you figure out the cause of challenging emotions and learn productive coping skills, which makes therapy the closest thing to a guided tour of the complex engine called you. BetterHelp has connected over 3 million people with licensed therapists. It's convenient, secure, and accessible anywhere, 100% online. Everybody deserves to feel their best. BetterHelp makes it easier to get started. As the world's largest therapy service, they've matched millions of people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists available, as I said, 100% online. All the benefits of in-person therapy, plus it's more convenient, more accessible, and more affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime for free. Couldn't be simpler. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com using the promo code LOCKEDON. That's BetterHelp.com, promo code LOCKEDON. And today's episode of Locked On Eagles is also brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Head over to linkedin.com/jobs and then add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. I'm Louis DiBiase. He's Gino Camilleri. Welcome back into the postgame show. The Eagles barely survived, but they survived and got a win in Chicago over the Bears, 25-20. As always, thanks for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Make sure your second listen is the Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories around the sports world in 20 minutes or less, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and Locked On's take of the day. So, Gino, we kind of talked about how it was the tale of two halves in this game for the Birds, right? The offense really struggling in the first half. 3 uncharacteristic turnovers from Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders. The offense was forcing things down the field. There was no pass run balance at all. Miles Sanders had 4 carries heading into the fourth quarter, but the defense kept you in it. And then the offense really did take off in the second half, man. I mean, if that's your worst performance, that's incredible. Jalen Hurts, 315 passing yards, 61 yards on the ground, and 3 scores. Even for maybe his worst day of the year, some of the balls deep down the field to A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith, the ball placement today was still superb from Jalen.
It's the double-edged sword of the playmaker, right? If you look at Josh Allen as well, people aren't going to complain about his interception numbers like they aren't going to complain about Pat Mahomes' interception numbers. It's the Brett Favre style of quarterbacking, as one would say. And we've been having this luxury that Jalen Hurts hasn't really turned the ball over, and today it was uncharacteristic. So, one, you hope that it's a lesson that he doesn't make those same mistakes again. He's able to grow. And 2, he is still making plays down the field. If he wasn't making plays down the field and throwing those interceptions, then that's a deeper conversation to have. But the double-edged sword of being a playmaker is if you put that ball into that position where you believe 1 in your arm and 2 in your playmaker, you're going to throw some of those balls. And I saw the idea on that first interception where he's moving to his right. He tries to loft it in there to AJ.
And I think the ball slipped a little bit too, man. I don't even know if that was like a pure underthrow.
Yeah, and the Quez Watkins one too. Quez had a very strange day himself.
Not a great day. They were all over the Quez Watkins place. He had 4 receptions for 6 yards, 2 carries for 4. It just felt like they were
and
all
didn't get upfield.
Felt timid at times for sure. Not a Quez day.
And if you saw the one ball to A.J. Brown where it was an overthrow to him and Quez is lined up inside, Quez beats his man but kind of stops his route. Yeah. And it was just strange to see him how he played today. But the good thing is when you have 2 number one receivers in A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith. And good news, Lou, maybe the best news, Dallas Goedert is probably coming back next week.
Right.
If this is the worst outing that you have offensively, where these guys can set career-esque days, A.J. Brown did. DeVonta Smith is
81 yards on
insane.
9 catches for Brown.
DeVonta is going to be the second receiver on the team to eclipse 1,000 yards, something they haven't had a 1,000-yard receiver since 2014.
And they've never had
two of them.
They've never had two, yeah. Devonte goes 5 for 126 today. That's the thing is, even in a down day for your passing attack, like you said, Brown is a career day, and DeVonta Smith, I mean, I feel like every catch was a timely third down. That's the thing. Jalen Hurts, yeah, he was forcing things in the first half, but how many times on third down did he find Brown or Smith? I mean, the last play to clinch the game, 3rd and 6, he finds A.J. Brown over the middle, but, you know, even the deep ball, the 68-yarder was on a 3rd and 6. And DeVonta Smith's deep ball in the first half was on a 3rd and 7. And even the play before his first interception, Jalen Hurts is rolling to his left, throws across his body, and Smith makes an amazing diving catch. I mean, those two, that big three really just said, we are better than this Bears secondary. There's nothing they can do to stop us. And Hurts just put the ball in the money. I mean, again, the ball placements with some of these dimes. I think we're going to see some more next-gen stats this week about some of those improbable completions.
You literally read my mind as I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts this week had the number 3, the number 4, and the number 9 most improbable completions.
Yeah.
You could add 15 in there as well if you want to count all the top 20. But number 3 was the pass to A.J. Brown for 68 yards. I had a completion percentage of 21.7. The next one to DeVonta Smith for 21 yards, had a completion percentage of 22%. And then that last one to A.J. Brown on the 29-yard reception, 28.4% completion percentage. He is making throws, 1, beyond the sticks, 2, in areas of aggressiveness, and 3, when you look at why were they pushing it down the field, you have to look at the trust they have in him too, Lou, because they didn't stop when he threw those interceptions. They just said, okay, we trust our guys to go win those one-on-ones, do it. It might have been a boneheaded coaching decision to just say our athletes are going to go out there. We don't really have to script up this elaborate game plan, but sometimes you have to just stay balanced and go through what makes you run, and that's having a balanced run-to-pass game. But when A.J. Brown continues to be the player that he is, and DeVonta Smith makes timely plays the way he does, there really isn't a reason to complain about them having the days that they did. And if Jalen Hurts doesn't throw those 2 interceptions, you're talking about one of the better days you've ever seen in the air. Him. Absolutely.
I mean, listen to the tear that those 3 are on together from the Titans game, the Giants game, and the Bears game, right? The Titans game, A.J. Brown is 119 yards, 2 touchdowns. Devonte is 102 and a touchdown. Then last week against New York, A.J. Brown 4 for 70 and a score. DeVonta Smith 5 for 64 and a touchdown. Then today, again, 9 catches for A.J. Brown for 181 yards. DeVonta Smith 5 for 126. I mean, Dallas Goedert goes down, and these two just completely carried the load.
We said what was going to be the way to supplant those yards that Dallas Goedert and that middle of the field threat that he brought. What was it going to be? We figured that it would be a mix of probably Kenny Gainwell, Miles Sanders, a little bit of adding in those 3 tight ends. Well, no, it really was a pretty straightforward answer. We are just going to throw it to the 2 guys who are seemingly better than anybody else on the football field. And that's what it comes down to. And the idea that anybody would have wanted to select Micah Parsons when DeVonta Smith is playing the way that he is and what he has done for this offense and how he has helped your quarterback grow, there is no reason that if you ever went back and made that selection, it wouldn't be anything other than DeVonta Smith for what he has done to help transform Jalen Hurts in his trust, and now bringing in A.J. Brown to see how it has elevated the play of your young quarterback, which has now brought your team to a 13-1 record, a chance to get the 1 seed, and have one of the best teams in franchise history and potentially NFL history if this pace keeps up. And that's what you have to keep doing. You have to get over that hump that was today. You have a huge matchup next week to clinch the division against the Dallas Cowboys, and that could be the stamp, Lou. This could be the stamp that you sign, seal, and deliver and say, we are here. This is our Super Bowl contender game. let's go and do it off of the heels of one of the worst games that they played after 3 very good performances.
It's crazy. I mean, you look at just like you said, it feels like the worst game, but there's so many positive storylines to talk about with Smith and Brown and Jalen's passing in the second half and 3 rushing touchdowns. Gino, he's got 13 on the year now on the ground. He has 13 total, as I mentioned. He is 1 away from tying Cam Newton's single season record for most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback. Cam set it at 14 back in 2011. So he needs 1 to tie and 2 to break it in 3 games. I think he's going to do it.
I would put my money on Jalen Hurts.
That QB sneak is unstoppable in the red zone.
It's the best play in football. I mean,
and teams are starting to copy it. You know, I saw the Bills on Saturday night. Dawson Knox is pushing Josh Allen up the middle. I'm like, the Eagles started that.
I think Moose Johnston had a great point on the color call today, saying you got to call it something different because it's not a sneak. I think we're going to have to stamp it the QB drive because your quarterback gets in the car, everybody straps in their seatbelts, and they drive that thing 2-3 yards downfield every single time, and they're going to score on the heels of their MVP. Take away those 2 interceptions today, Lou. That was another great performance from Jalen Hurts, and even with that, it's not going to skew his MVP run for me, and I don't think it really skews those numbers too much because he only threw 3 prior to this. This was an outlier type of day for him. He's going to finish with less than half an interception per game on the year. That's pretty freaking good in my book.
The Eagles take it 25-20 over the Chicago Bears to get to 13-1 in the season. Gino and I will zoom out a little bit and take a look at these final 3 weeks of the season coming up next, right here on the Locked On Eagles postgame show.
Before we do that, this episode of Locked On Eagles is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks, if you don't know what it is daily fantasy made easy. You pick 2 to 5 players, and you'll say, will they score over or below the Prize Picks projection that they put out each and every week, and you can win 10 times your money. You're not competing against other people on those daily fantasy sites, which have tens of thousands of entries. Nope, it's just you against the projections. And I know you love football if you're listening to this show, but you can also do it with NBA. You could bet on soccer. You could do men's college basketball, women's college basketball, disc golf, Euro basketball. The list goes on and on. Entries can be made in easy as 60 seconds. I mean, if you like efficiency and you like fun, this is the site for you. Download Prize Picks app today or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. You're going to use that promo code Locked On. That's LOCKEDON, and you're going to get 100% instant deposit match up to $100. What does that mean? You put in $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. You put in 50, they'll give you 50, so on and so forth. How do you do that? You listen to this show, you subscribe to our show, you use the promo code Locked On over at prizepicks.com. Prize Picks, it's always fun, and always pick Jalen Hurts for the over.
This is the Locked On Eagles post-game show. We're recapping the Eagles' 13th win of the year, 13-1 now on the season, 25-20 in Chicago over Justin Fields and the Bears. It wasn't pretty for, a half, and in the third quarter even too. I mean, you look at, really the entire game. Justin Fields finds a way to pull within 5 with a little over 2 minutes to go because of how much of a threat he was mobility-wise. Darius Slay gets caught watching him scramble, and, Brian Pringle's wide open in the back of the end zone. But a clutch play from Jalen Hurts on 3rd and 6. He finds A.J. Brown over the middle to convert and end the game. Now the Eagles are 13-1. The Dallas Cowboys lost today to the Jacksonville Jaguars and our boy Doug Peterson in overtime, so they're 10-4. So you look at around 2 o'clock, right? It's 10-6. And the Cowboys are beating the Jaguars. What was it? 31-10 or something? Did the Jaguars erase
21 unanswered points?
So you're thinking at that point, the Eagles are going to be 12-2. The Cowboys are going to be 11-3 next week for Christmas. That could be for the division. And suddenly you're like, oh my gosh, if you lose that game, you're not even in control of your destiny anymore. Instead, it completely flip-flopped. And that's a great feeling because there was, for a while there, Eagles Twitter was on fire for a bit. And I think rightfully so.
What I've learned from this team is to just right the wrongs of the past and ride it out, like you said. I know you introed the show saying it felt very 2018-19. But the thing that is different about this year is even in those games where it feels like that, they still find a way to win. And they controlled what they had to control. They had to go out there and win yet another football game to make next week's matchup even that more pivotal. How great would it be to clinch the division, the number 1 seed, over the Dallas Cowboys?
In Jerry World?
On Christmas Eve.
Let's go.
In Jerry World. What more can you say? And Doug Peterson will never buy another drink in Philadelphia. If that wasn't ever so evident after the Super Bowl, it's going to be even more evident now. Let's just recap how that happened, folks. The Jacksonville Jaguars were down 31-10. Trevor Lawrence leads a 21-point unanswered comeback to get that game to 31-31. Both teams would kick a field goal, get it to 34-34. Oh, the Jags had to score that field goal with 50 seconds left on the clock. After Dallas got it, they go down and score. Dallas Cowboys get the ball in overtime after the Jaguars fail to get a first down. And guess what happens? Dak Prescott throws a pick six, and the Philadelphia Eagles are one game away. One game from clinching that 1 seed. Lou, how great would it be to go into the final 2 weeks with the ability to rest Jalen Hurts and not have to see him get hit on a quarterback pull where he goes through the A gap and gets lit up like he did
He got shook up a few times today. There was one that he took a while to get up. I'm like, oh my gosh.
That would have been the worst case scenario. Not today. Yeah, we couldn't have seen that happen, but it would be a great feeling to where you would be able to potentially sit them for that 2 weeks, then have that bye. And we know the fight.
3 weeks off?
I don't think they would. I don't think they would. But to have that opportunity, what was this season founded on, Lou? It goes back to what Howie Roseman wrote on those 3 things after the draft or after the 2020 season, when he said, "What are we going to get in football players moving forward for the Philadelphia Eagles? 1, do they love football? 2, can they stay healthy? 3, can they run?" Well, they're a team that loves football. They have guys that are playing at a career high levels, and they have an athletic football team which matches pace with any team around the NFL right now. We saw that game yesterday between the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills, what high flying offenses it takes to compete with the best of the best. The Eagles are right there, even after a bad performance. Home field advantage, the opportunity and the ability to rest your guys if needed. That's huge because the other teams don't have that ability, because now Dallas is trying to fight for the 2 seed with Minnesota. Even if they lose next week, that's going to be the race. The rest of the NFC wild card is a mishmash. All those teams are going to be beating each other up here in the last 3 weeks. And you have the ability to play Dallas on Christmas Eve. Then you play the Saints, which that should be a want to win game for you because you want to get that higher draft pick. And then the Giants game at the end of the year, you would figure they rest their guys if they get a win here in the next 2 weeks.
And Dallas, they wouldn't be, if they don't win the division, they won't have a chance at the 2 seed. So
they won't. Okay.
Yeah, no. They're stuck at the 5, and they have to go on the road to play.
Oh, what was I talking about? The 2
No, you're
seed.
good.
My goodness.
So no, you're okay.
It's the dumbest thing NFL
just a
seeding.
huge
I'm
thing,
sorry.
though. I mean, no, you're okay. The Cowboys at this point, just the worst possible result for them today. Yeah, as you mentioned, Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence took over, erasing a 21-point deficit. Lawrence finished with 318 yards and 4 touchdowns. Doug's turning another quarterback into a complete stud, man. I mean, Trevor Lawrence the last month and a half has been on a complete tear. So Doug gave us one last gift, and he might mess around and win that division. I mean, he's a game back now from Tennessee. That's pretty cool. I'll always love Doug. I'm happy with Nick Sirianni, but I'm really rooting for him now, especially after that win he helped us out with today.
Let's just say a couple of those wins that happened earlier this season are looking better and better by the day. You look at Jacksonville, who beats the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah. You look at the Lions, who could be in a playoff spot. They win yet another game today. Man. 7-7. They have a chance to get a wild card berth. Lou, the Eagles are for real. Like, I don't know what more people want to see. Today, we knew it could be one of those potential letdown spots, a look-ahead spot. It's a huge game. We all know that this is that SEC matchup where we know at the end of the year, it's Alabama, Georgia. You know that game's coming. You play a little beat-up team like New Mexico State the week before. Is it always pretty? Is it always one of those games where you just coast by? Not always. And this was one of those games today because we know what is coming. The showdown, the NFC East, Christmas Eve, a national stage. Everybody is going to be watching. But man, 13-1, Lou. What a ride it's been
now you
so
can take
far.
a deep
This
breath.
season is awesome.
You know, next week's obviously going to be huge, but the fact that you don't have to win that game and suddenly you could be staring at the 5 seed. I mean, that's massive.
Right.
To have the result you did today, no matter how it came, you know, not every week a win is a win in the NFL when you're fighting for a Super Bowl, when the bar is raised and the expectations are different. But today, a win was a win for sure based on what it did for the Eagles, for the 1 seed and for the division title. 1 win away from both. We'll continue to recap this game on Tuesday's edition of the show, Stock Up, Stock Down, from the 25-20 victory over the Chicago Bears. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Eagles on all podcast platforms and on YouTube as well. And make sure you hit us up on Twitter at Locked On Birds, at GC24_football, and at DiBiase LOE. Thank you for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Make sure your second listen is the Locked On Sports Today podcast. Peter Bukowski brings you the biggest stories from around the world of sports in 20 minutes. Locked On Sports Today, available on YouTube and wherever you get your shows. For Gino Camilleri, I'm Lou DiBiase signing off. Once again, the Eagles take it 25-20 in Chicago. As always, thank you for downloading. Thank you for watching and listening. And let's go Birds.
Fly, Eagles, fly.